Hi, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce a bonus episode. This episode is of our very good friends, Karrie, Fransman and Jonathan Plackett, with their launch, which we went to. We dressed up as Greek gods of gender-swapped Greek myths. Me and George went along on the day. I dressed as... What did I dress as? I can't even remember. Persephone? No. I'm just going to say we both dressed up in our Greek non-binary finery.
I was Pandorus's box.
You looked amazing. You were very green. It was very grass liberation.
We painted our whole
bodies.
Whole body paint.
That was very sexy. But the launch was wonderful and we managed to actually record it, which was really, really great. We'd like you to listen in. This is an ideal gift to anybody to open the conversation around the gender binary and fucking slamming that shit into the ground.
Yeah, it was great fun that day. It was really special.
It was nice.
It was nice.
Can everybody hear me? Hello. Welcome. My name is Ra and I'm from Artists at Work. We run a podcast. Hello. Thank you. And what? Are you recording? I am recording, yeah. We've had a whole tech thing. It's been a lot of fun. But anyway, my name is Ra Petherbridge and this is George Alexander Thompson.
Hello, everybody. I am George Alexander Thompson and we are live at Pickle Pepper Books for the launch of gender-swapped Greek myths. Woo!
Can you tell we've rehearsed? Hold on. Where are we? Okay.
Ra has her first question.
I have my first question. So we're going to be doing a little interview and I would like to ask a question which is on the second card where I've put my prompts. My first question is...
Am I the first question?
Yes. We're really well prepared.
Thank you, guys. Louisa, we'd like to ask you first what drew you to gender swap fairy tales.
Oh wait, can we introduce everyone? What are we doing?
Sorry.
Oh my God, Jonathan Plackett. Karrie Fransman, illustrator. Louisa Joyner, editor. Oh my God, what is wrong with us?
Cue cards are really difficult.
We've never done cue cards before. Okay, your turn.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Louisa, what drew you to these guys? How did you find out about gender swap fairy tales? And what was the process of developing these two incredible books?
So, a crucial person, just right there, Sophie Lambert, agent extraordinaire.
Woo! Sophie, give it the wave, come on.
When Sophie shared, because it was fully formed, this genius concept with this exquisite illustration, this little window into this beautiful book arrived small and perfectly formed in an email from Sophie, who was their glorious agent and had worked with you two to present this incredible, just the cleverest ideas. They're just so simple and it felt like it already was a book. And it's just the brilliant thing about editing is it's a bit of midwifery, and so just seeing this beautiful ready to be born little thing and helping it make its way into the world, you just really don't want to mess it up. So it was already exquisite and beautiful. The cleverness of the simplicity of the switch, the algorithm and the purity of it, the idea of letting the stories speak, not wanting to change the narration. And that is such a brilliant idea. And then it was just mesmerically executed in these beautiful illustrations. So it wasn't so much that we wanted to publish it, it was could we fight everybody else off and get to publish it?
Yes! Hold on.
We Louisa really got the idea, the simplicity of the idea that we were just going to swap it and not do anything else. And other people maybe didn't quite get that we couldn't mess with that. The whole point is that you don't mess with it.
It's unmessed.
Plus the computer did the hard work, so we're not going to complain.
But there weren't value judgments being made about individual decisions that you're letting.
Yeah.
If you'd been wearing that necklace, we probably wouldn't have needed to have that conversation. The very cool snake necklace let the tape record show.
I'm just going to dress like this every day.
So we all know that this was born from gender swap fairy tales. Why Greek?
Ooh, well, I mean, what we want to do is look at the narrative, the archetypes, the characters which underpin the stories in our society today. Fairy tales, we still see these characters existing in modern, TV, film, everything. We see these characters there already. And the same with Greek myth. They go back even further, up to 4,000 years ago. And you can see in superhero, comics and films, you can see, the heroines going on their masculine individualistic journeys. We can see, with Harry Potter and the Cloak of Darkness, all of these stories are echoed again and again. And what we want to do is take language, take characters, and by swapping them, we shine a light on the gender binaries which are hidden in the stories which we tell our children and each other, and the narratives which we watch. That is what we are most interested in. The Greek myth really goes so far back. We see echoes in biblical stories. We see echoes in fairy stories. And we want people to... The nice thing about the computer doing the hard work, as we joke, is that each of the readers becomes sort of the person analysing the story. The analysis is left in the reader's hands. We're not preaching to them. We're not telling them how to view it. They can come to their own conclusion, their own observations. And I think everybody who does read the book gets that. They have to work quite hard. You read it to a child, they get new stories, new characters, but you are actually working on your own biases by reading it itself. And that's what makes it really interesting.
John, we were going to ask whether you made any adaptations to the algorithm for this book, and also what were your sort of most surprising or most interesting character swaps in the Greek myths?
So the main thing we had to do for the algorithm on this one was the names, and we actually had to have a lot of human input on that one as well. Fairy tales are quite simple; we're also used to them. So yeah, figuring out the names and how to swap those. One of my favourite swaps was the Minotaur to Minor Heifer.
Yeah,
which is really fun.
That's really fun.
I think Karrie, did your friend come up with that one?
Yeah, we asked the Greek friend about but the translation was slightly different.
But yeah, we had help from Professor Roderick Beaton to do the names. We kind of swapped that. A lot of them have masculine and feminine versions, so we swapped those. But we had some help with that because it's quite tricky. What was the other part of the question? What the characters that were?
Well, yeah. What were the biggest sort of surprises or sort of noticeable gender switches in these stories?
So I think the story we were just telling, Atalanta, now Atalantis, that one was a really interesting one. I initially sort of started reading the story that this isn't going to work. This is already a sort of feminist story. It's a woman, it's a girl raised by bears, and then she turns into a sort of badass hunter. But then later in the story, she is now sort of like told she's not allowed to be a huntress. So the gender swap of that becomes this little boy being told by the matriarchy that he's not allowed to be brave and not allowed to be strong. And I've never seen a story like that because the algorithm swaps the whole world. You get all of the expectations changed as well. So later on in that story, he kind of arrives to fight this wild boar, and the queen sort of says, "No, you couldn't possibly help. Like, wouldn't you rather play with your toys in the garden?" And all the other huntresses are sort of saying, "We couldn't go hunting with a man. We'd be a laughing stock." So that was a real, because it's changing the whole world. That one was really interesting to me.
I mean, what we're really interested in is that we live in a society which is increasingly binary, and I think with this book we're looking at the binary of masculinity and femininity. But by swapping it, we're getting people to relate to the other side, to see themselves in and other characters which they weren't previously seen in, and I think that's quite interesting.
I have a question that I would like to aim at Louisa, the editor. So this is different. This, like, we can all say this is different. I think that deserves a round of applause. It's different. But you, as an editor, have been kind of gifted this thing that's already been written, like it's in the public domain. How did you tackle it?
What, the publishing of the stories that are already out there?
Yeah, well, like more so when this was given to you from the algorithm and it was put in front of you, what did you think? I want to know what you thought.
I love the utterly squirmy nature of feeling like you're pretty good at thinking. You think you're alive to gender stereotypes. You think you're in a place where you're self-aware, and then you're confronted by endless people-pleasing boys, and you just think, "Oh God!" Like, you know, it's the subtleties that these guys are talking about what it shows about your culture, and that when you do it totally. I remember we talked about this right at the beginning. It's the swapping of who comes first, queens and kings, not kings and queens. Like the constant foregrounding in ways that you do in your sentence construction. It's that level of like properly unconscious bias, things that how you structure a sentence that is suddenly in a way that isn't confrontational. You know, there's nothing aggressive, like you say, you're letting the reader, but you just look at it and think, maybe that is something like do I tend to put the boys first in the sentence? You know, and that's really profound, and that's really interesting. And so then you're just about making sure that you give space and light. And I think also like the incredible design team at Faber, like Donna's here.
Donna, give a wave, Donna.
And I think like
the best like art director I've ever worked with. Sorry for any previous books, but absolute talent over there.
And so the innate, like there's a clever trick in if you make it really beautiful and you feel it's a classical feel. It feels like a storybook that you could discover on a shelf that's been around a long time, and there'll be kids that do find that, and they won't know that it's been swapped in the sense that it will feel innate.
And that's the whole thing is that our kids won't know.
And hopefully that's what we want to keep growing, right? And that beauty in that, like your job as publisher is to do that, is to manifest that confidence, to make people feel like this is already there, and it should already be there. And so that felt like the big sort of like challenge, this sort of getting that right.
Yeah, well, the like, well done for that. That's amazing. Another thing that kind of leads off that is this is pretty global, guys. Well done. Round of applause, definitely for that. But I'd love to know the barriers that you met. And I know I've talked to Karrie, you know, at like 11 o'clock at night when we should be at bed, about that. But like when you go global, how does it translate?
I mean, that was very much down to the individual countries and their translators. And we had some really interesting conversations, certainly in France, didn't we? With how the French language is constructed, and it's all masculine and feminine. And I mean, there was a really interesting foreword written for our French edition about the masculine coming first, like you were saying. And there's literally, I think you carry a card around in France, an ID card, and number 1 is masculine, number 2 is woman, which is just...
It spoke about how I'm trying to remember what they said. It's like in French, if there's a group of men, then there's one word for it. If there's a group of women, there's one word. But if there's a group of, say, 100 women and 1 man in it, now it's a masculine. It swaps the masculine group.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
And so,
but the standard is masculine. And one thing I realised, which I do, is I refer to animals automatically in the masculine. And again, I see myself as a card-carrying feminist. I thought I was incredibly woke. But then when you realise you do that, you're like, oh my God, the standard is masculine.
It's so ingrained, isn't it?
They were the interesting bits of reading it, because the cool thing about the algorithm as well is we got to read it from fresh as well. We just swapped it and it's sort of given to us. And those bits that you don't think anything of, where you then you reread it and you go, that seemed okay the other way around, and now it seems really weird. And
there was a really interesting one in the introduction about maidens and youth.
Oh yeah,
and the way you changed that was really fascinating.
That one was fun. So in the Minotaur story, or the Minor Heifer story there are in the original one it's youths and maidens who get sacrificed to the Minotaur. So we wanted to gender swap that. So initially we thought it was quite easy. You just swap the words. It's maidens and youths, but youth doesn't tell you about their marital status or virginity as maiden does.
Yeah.
So we had to try and find a word that would convey that. The closest we got was bachelors.
Bachelor does not mention virginity, does it? In fact, you
Virginity.
assume the opposite. But and in fact, in fairy tales,
but there isn't a word for young
young
male virgin.
Yeah, exactly.
There isn't one.
Really complicated.
And incel.
That's hilarious. Oh, so true. And in gender swap fairy tales, we had the same problem with hag. there wasn't the male equivalent of a derogatory term for an old man. We had to use old codger.
Oh, I like
Because literally we couldn't find anything which was like silver fox, all of that is like...
It still has a potentially, oh, you old codger, you know.
Yeah, it's quite friendly in a way.
But you don't be like, oh, you old
codger
hag.
is
It
close to
definitely
hag,
doesn't
I'd
have
say.
the same thing.
Yeah, so very interesting.
When we had a really nice one the other day, actually,
was
when
gorgeous.
we were going through everything and we put gender swapped Greek myths next to gender swapped fairy tales, and it
was
just.
just
It's
10 more
yeah,
things.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what's we really wanted to ask, what is next? Have you thought about it? Is it top secret, or do you just need a holiday?
Oh my
you-
God. We made a baby in between. I was super pregnant and we were literally just getting this done when I was like ready to pop. And I had to return a little bit after I popped. So yeah, we titled Gender Swap Fairy Tales for Lyra, who was the first thing we made, another thing we made together, and then another other thing we made with Lionel with the second
That's
book.
such a beautiful dedication.
Oh, we both wept. We opened the book, and it was
sentiment.
then another thing we made.
So yeah, we're stop making the babies, definitely. That's the last thing we make together.
So should the third dedication just be like, we've made this together, we're okay, we've had enough, we're tired.
But you know what? What we like about this idea is the fact that other people can go out in the world. We've had people in Nepal gender swapping their myths and their legends. You know, we want it to be an idea which which other people come to, and they say, hey, what about if we gender swap this? What if we race swap something? What if we class swap something? You know, there's so many ways of being critical of our text and introducing people to more of a flipped world. And I think that's the idea which we really want to travel and grow.
Nice.
I mean, the whole thing that me and George have taken away from this, and it's written in the book, is that it's not just about the binary. There's lots of other genders out there, but by breaking down this, my God, doesn't it make us all think? I think we can all take that home with us. Yeah. This book is ideal to give to your really uptight granddad that you can't have the conversation with. It's for all of those awkward conversations that you find really hard to tackle. You give them this book and go, what do you think of that? And it's really important.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really important project, and you guys have done so well. And the conversations that we've had around this book have always been so eye-opening and magical and interesting. And I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful
Oh, look
thing.
at them too. It's like having your parents.
So important stuff to get it out of the way. I would like to say, how do we follow you, Louisa?
Oh, God, I'm on Twitter. That's about it.
What's your handle? Is
It's
it
just Louisa?
Louisa Joyner.
Louisa Joyner.
Joyner, as in Joy.
Not
Anyone?
sure I say anything terribly interesting on there, though. So, I do celebrate books.
So I'm at
We love
Karrie
books.
Fransman on Instagram and Twitter, and if you use the hashtag gender swapped Greek myth or gender swapped stories, then we will find you.
I am at John Plackett, no H, on Twitter, and annoyingly, I'm Johnny Plackett on Instagram.
We can get our heads around that. If you'd like to follow me and George, we're Artists That Work. We're available on all kind of podcast providers. I would like us all to stand and give a toast to a very important book. So, 2 gender-swapped Greek myths, everyone. Cheers. Thank you very much. Right. And ad lib, everybody, amongst yourselves. Have a chat.
Can I just add a little thing? Me and John have these limited edition signed stickers. If you come and find us, you can get one for. Do you want to grab one? You get a Perthea and a Medusa, and you can put them together, man, in your book. So come find us. We will give you one for free. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you for tuning in to our bonus episode about gender-swapped Greek myths and the ongoing saga of the gender binary and
What's the next
breaking
book going to
it.
be?
I don't know. I'm hoping Irish myths.
Oh, Irish folklore would be a great one.
I know, there's loads of it as
That
well.
would be really cool.
Hey, Karrie and John, can you do Irish folklore? We love you.
Gender swapped Irish folklore. That's an intense one.
It would be intense. But look, I just wish them the best, and please go out and buy this book. Not only is it just beautiful, but it's opening up a conversation that's really important to have.
Yeah, it's a really, really special thing to have in your life. And don't forget to buy the first book, Gender Swap Fairy Tales.
Yeah, we love them all. Thank you, Karrie and John.